Hey guys, it's Jasmine. Welcome back to my channel. Today's card is going to start off with my favorite things, magical dragons. And I've got this tip from Amy R. at Prairie Paper and Ink. What she does with the MFT specifically is she lays out her dies and then lays the stamps inside the dies when she stamps them so that she doesn't have to break up the dies, which I really like. Because I don't like having all these little loose pieces in my envelopes. It makes it more difficult to get out, and this just makes it easier to use. You can't do this with all stamp sets because not every company does their dies like this. Other ones nest their dies when they make them. But I really like this method. I wish all of them came this way. But anyway, so I'm going to stamp these using my Misty, and I'm going to use some Bristol cardstock and Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And we're using Memento because it's Copic safe. Memento is a dye-based ink, and Copic are alcohol markers. So their opposites attract, so they don't cause each other to bleed or smudge or smear. And the Bristol is super smooth cardstock, which makes it easy to blend. And this is why I like the Misty. See on the bottom portion of that other dragon, I missed his rear end a little bit, so that the Misty makes it super easy to re-ink and restamp without messing up. So I missed a little bit of footage on coloring the wings and the belly, so apologize for that, but it is super simple. So I'm going to go in with my cool gray markers, and I'm starting out with C2, and the darkest I'm going to go is C8. And if you've watched any of Sandy Allnock's Copic coloring videos, one of the things that she suggests that I've started doing is going in with high contrast shadows. And that's how you get the best depth and dimension in your coloring. So that's what I've been doing. I've been practicing that more and more. Being less afraid to mess it up. It is just paper after all. You can always restamp it and recolor it if you don't like what you're doing. And practice is kind of necessity for using any new medium. The only way you're going to learn how to use it properly is to practice with it. So I went with my darkest, C8, and now I'm using C6. And basically you go from darkest back down to lightest. So the grays that I used for this one were C00, C0, C2, C3, C6, and C8. And by going in with the C00, which is the lightest gray I used, you get a really cool texture because of the difference in color splendor that's in the marker itself. And I really like the texture that it gives. And if you do have dark spots that don't want to blend out, just keep adding layers of your lightest color over the top until you get the blended look you want. And you can let it dry so that you don't get blurred edges. As you can see at the top of my dragon by the horns, I did get a little bit of bleeding outside the lines, but I did go in with my colorless blender, the completely clear one, and clean that up a little bit, and it turned out fine. So I'm going back in with my RV00 to color the little spines on the back of the tail, and another coat on the belly, and then on his little fingernails, or her little fingernails. Either way. A little bit darker RV23 with the nails and the base of the spines. So now I'm working on my card front, and this is a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 My Favorite Things pink lemonade cardstock. And I've got both my dies on there. Now the square, or the rectangle, is going to be for the shaker element, and the curved tube-like die is going to be for the slider element. I've had this idea for a card for quite a while, and I just haven't gotten around to playing with it, so now we're playing with it. I think it's going to turn out really cute. Now this is the point which you want to stamp your sentiment on the front of your card. I forgot to do that, and I worked it out later, but it's easiest to do it now because you're working on a flat piece of cardstock versus after we've got the foam tape on there. So using some score tape, this is 1/4 inch wide score tape, I'm going to tape around the edges of my rectangle. And I'm going to burnish that down with a bone folder to make sure it's good and stuck. And then I'm going to remove the release paper and stick down a piece of acetate. And that is going to form the front of our shaker window. And I use score tape pretty much consistently. It's my favorite dry adhesive. It's super sticky. It does not fall apart. So just keep that in mind. If you stick something down with it and you want to remove it or lift it up, or you screwed up with something, do it carefully because it will tear the surface of whatever it's stuck to. And this is the 3M foam tape I'm using, and I've doubled it up. This is a double thickness. And I'm going to use it to build the shaker box. You can cut this in half, you can cut it in thirds. This is in half, I believe. It's not an exact measurement. The thing you want to remember when building a shaker box is to have all of the edges meet flush so that you have no gaps. Because if you're using things like glitter or seed beads, some really tiny, it will escape. Ask me how I know. So just keep in mind that you want to have all of the edges of your foam tape around shaker windows flush. So at the bottom I've got my full width double thickness foam tape. I'm going to apply that to the bottom and to the top. And we're doing this to give a case, if you will, to the shaker, not the shaker, the slider element, so that the penny can't go too wide, as well as providing support, if I can talk, for the front of the card base. So here I've got some silver glitter paper. I'm just going to cut that with some scissors to be the backing paper for the shaker element and the slider element. And this is by Die Cuts with a View. I'm using Little Things Deep Fuchsia sequin mix for this. And I forgot to do it with this oh no, I didn't. I reminded myself. That's a powder tool just to go around the inside edges of the foam tape before I remove the backing paper to kind of eliminate any stickiness and try to eliminate any static cling. And that just helps the sequin mix and little beads and stuff in there to move around freely. As you can see, they like to stick because they're very staticky. So it kind of helped to break those up and get it into more of a flat, even layer. And then we'll remove the backing paper from the foam tape and make sure no sequins get stuck under there. And then apply our glitter paper. So there you can see the shaker box all done. So I've die cut my dragon, and we're going to create a slider out of it. So my favorite things has these little plastic discs, and they're called spin and slide discs. And I attach those to the back of the dragon using some tiny foam dots. And here I'm just kind of figuring out the best placement for the little plastic discs. There's my little foam dots. These are by Zots, Z-O-T-S. And they're just right for the little discs. So I've got them on either side of the disc to stick it to the dragon, and then to stick the dragon to the penny. So I've got that fit in there. And I'm going to stick down my penny. And I don't want it to interfere with that silver backer paper, so I'm kind of maneuvering it, trying to fit it in there so that it slides freely. And then we'll stick down another piece of the silver glitter paper to serve as a background for the slider element. So I've got some more score tape there. And then partially lift up the backing paper for the foam tape to use the adhesive on that as well. So because I have foam tape behind the bottom edge of this, I can stamp on top of it and get a decent image transfer. But if you don't have a full backing of foam tape, this is going to be more difficult. So that's why I suggested that you do the stamping on this before you add anything to the back of the paper. But as you can see, you can make it work. So we're almost finished. I've got a couple of little clouds that I just colored with RV00 and RV81. And then I'm using some Tombow mono multi-glue to attach these little silver stars that I had left over from another project. And I thought they just fit well. Add a little more contrast with the light silver. This is more of like a gunmetal silver. And I did add some Spectrum Noir clear glitter brush pen. They've got to come up with better titles for these things. To my dragon's belly, the wings, and the clouds. So you could use this card for thinking of you, feel better, happy birthday, just to make you smile if you've got someone that's going through a rough time or whatever. Really versatile. So I've just got some tape runner just in the middle to kind of help me place my card base with the panel that we've created to make it even. And then I remove the score tape to make sure it's good and stuck down. And then as a finishing touch, I added some more, just a few sequins on the top. And these are the same sequins from the Deep Fuchsia mix that we used as the filler for the shaker box. And the only thing you want to kind of keep in mind is making sure the sequins placed around the slider element don't interfere with the movement of the slider element. And that pretty much finishes up our card. Thanks for joining me. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. Just leave them in the comments below. All of the supplies I use are going to be on the blog post, and I'll have that linked as well. So thanks for joining me today, guys. We will see you later, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.